Hello everyone, welcome to this channel. So in the previous video we discussed about how to download and install MetaTrader5 on Windows system, and then we went through how to create a free demo account. Then we also went through the Python script to download the forex data with the help of MetaTrader5 Python library. And now in this video we'll go one step further and we'll complete our code by creating a buy and sell signal, and also we will create the chart for the visualization purpose. So let's get started. First we will import the date time. This is to manipulate the date and time in the Python code, and then we will import PyTZ. So PyTZ is a library which offers cross-platform time zone calculations that are needed for the import purpose. Then we have import pandas MetaTrader5 as empty. It is installed. I'm just wondering why it's not showing, but anyways we will see. Okay, so that was the reason. And then we will also import numpy for the calculations or mathematical calculations, and then we will also import matplotlib.pyplot as plt. Now you will ask why I have created as or alias name over here. It's more so that we don't have to call the whole library name, but we can use the alias as plt for matplotlib, numpy, and np for numpy, and metatrader or mt5 for metatrader5 and all. Right, so this was more of a library import. So these are needed so that we can call the functions within these libraries. Now next is to initialize and log in to MetaTrader5. Now see, let me just write it, then I will show you what I was mentioning. So MT5, so we have all these things, or let's say all these functions that we can call from, right? So we will say initialize, and then we will also say mt5.login. So what I'm doing over here is basically we don't need to open the MetaTrader5 application manually. So what it will do, it will initialize and then it will log in the application of its own. So we don't basically need to manually install it, or let's say open it. And because why I did this is the main reason is because of sometimes we forget to open the application, and then this code will not work. And just to make sure that we don't forget it, I wrote this code. Right, so I'll not use my account IDs and all. So login ID, this is my login ID, let's say, and then password will be again, let's say this one, right? And then we also need to pass the server details. Server details is, again, I will just hide it. Okay, so these are the information that you need to pass to make sure that the code works, or the code does the login into the MetaTrader5 application. Now let's define time frames. Like I mentioned in the last video, the time frames are important. The reason being, this will help us to make the changes in the time frame. So let's say if you want to get the data on the daily basis, or daily interval data, or let's say monthly, hourly, something like that. So this will help us to change the time frame, right? So let's say time frames is equal to, let me list down couple of ones, and then maybe later on you can add more. So we have M15, which is mt5 dot, I think, time frame M15, right? So we do have a list of functions, or let's say methods, and then we have, let's say, M30. Again, it's for mt5 dot 30. I'll just make it very fast, or I will not take all the time frames. I'll just take the one which I will be using. So it's D1, and then we have mt5 dot time frame D1, and then we might be also taking W1, or let's say just take it because W1 is one of the most important time frame when it comes to, let's say, swing trading, right? So let's say it should be W1, right? Last but not the least, I will also take month, MN1, and then mt5 dot time frame. See, I do not have to write all these. I could have copy pasted, but the thing is, you need to understand why we are writing it. So that is the only reason or intention behind writing this. So then we have time frame underscore MN1, right? So these all are the time frames that we will be using. Now let's move on to the next step. So let's define some of the assets, or let's say forex currencies. Define as for to fetch data for, or let's say data, right? So let's say assets is equal to, I'll take couple of ones. So let's say Euro USD, then we have USD, Swiss franc, CHF, Then we have GBP USD, which is Great Britain Pound USD. Then we can take USD Canadian dollar CAD, right? And maybe we can also take Bitcoin, right? So Bitcoin is BTC USD. Now I'll just briefly explain what is EU or USD. So for an example, if we are buying let me just comment it. If we are buying €1, right? Buying €1, then we have to pay somewhere, I don't know, maybe something like 1.07516. I have to check the price, but yeah, this is USD, right? So for €1, we have to buy €1, we have to pay something like 1.07516 USD. So basically it says that euro is still more expensive than the USD, right? So yeah, now moving on to fetching the data. Let's say fetch data. Now for this, I will define a function, define fetch data, and then we will pass the time frame. We will pass year, which year I would like the data to be of. So let's say 2024. I will also pass month, which is 1, and then I will also pass day, which is equal to 1, and then let's say the default asset will be USD. Okay, so yeah, for the year part, I don't need to basically pass the double or inverted comma, right? But because they are numerical, and then for the Euro USD, maybe just to make sure that we don't get any error, I'll just do that. Now, even though we have created here, to initialize the application, but still sometimes if it's not initialized, what we can do, we can write over here, if not MT5 dot initialized, but we can say this is more just to for the debugger part. This does help you, this will help you for sure. Initialization failed, let's say, and then error code could be something like MT5 dot last error, right? And then is it right? Yeah, and then we have return none. Good. So now the code starts. So basically what we need to do, let me define the time zone. So we have time zone. Time zone is, if you remember, it's mostly like which time zone you would like this code to run. This will help you out. Basically it is to maintain the data, or let's say the date and time based on the time zone. So we'll use pytz dot time zone. Let's take America, New York right now. Okay, now let's define the start time, because of course, even though we are mentioning here, the year and month, but we need to mention the start time and end time. And for that reason, we have defined the date time library over here, right? So we will say date start time is equal to date time dot date time, and then we'll say year, month, day, and then we will also pass on the time zone, and similarly we will also define the end time, right? So for end time, of course the start time will not be the end time, so we have to make some more changes, right? So for that, let's say dot now, and then we will pass the time zone, whatever the time zone is of this particular, or let's say the time zone that we have selected, that will be taken, right? And then we'll also add date time dot time delta, and we'll say days is equal to 1. So basically we are adding one more day to the end time, right? Great. Now let's do some debugging code as well. So we'll say print, let me say fetching data for asset, let's say the start time, then I will say to end time. We'll also mention with time frame, let's say time frame. Okay, so this will be our, just to make sure that we are debugging if there is an error in the code, we will get to know what is the error. Great. Now let's get the data. Let's call the data in a function. So rates is equal to MT5 dot, and this is the most important part, let's say the code of everything. So copy rates range, will pass asset, time frame, start time, and end time. So this code will bring in the data. So this is the most important code of all, right? Okay. Now we'll also say, see, sometimes what happens, you might not get the data for a particular asset. So for that we will also do a check over here if rates is, let's say, none, right? And then we will say print no data for the asset in specified range. So what is the specified range? It's basically the date and time that we are passing. Okay, now let's return the data. Return pd dot data frame rates. So this is the function which will fetch the data, right? Once we pass the time frame, year, month, day, and asset and all. So basically we are not passing this one, we are basically passing the date, time and all, right? So this is the one which fetches the data, and then let's go on to import data. So I'll say define see, we could have done it in a single function itself, but it's always good to go on a modular level, because that will help us to, make, first of all, that will help us to make the changes in the code, but also it will help us to get to know where the error is, right? So then we'll say asset index, then we'll pass the time frame, we'll also pass the time frame. Now what is this time frame key? I'll just come on to that. So let's say asset is equal to assets, and then I will say the asset index, not asset. Somewhere I have mentioned index, so probably, I don't know, somewhere I must have written asset. We'll come on to that anyways. Okay, good. Now it's asset index. Okay, so instead of writing the whole, this asset name, what we will do from this list of assets, from this list we'll just pass the asset index, right? Like for euro USD will pass 0, or for USD franc, Swiss franc will pass 1. So now moving on to data is equal to, we'll call the function that we wrote earlier, fetch data, and then we will pass the time frame, and then we'll pass time frames key. So time frames key is basically this one. So if you remember, we have, this is a dictionary that we have created over here. So in this we'll pass the key and the values will be taken, right? Okay, now let's pass 2024 6-month one, and then asset will be asset. The asset again came, but anyways. So now if data is none, so if there is no data, data dot empty, then what we will say, we'll say print no data return for this asset. It's just like multiple checks, I mean, we could have used this one itself, but it's always good to go on the like I said, on the functional level or modular functional level, right? For asset on, let's say, time frame key for the time frame, right? Close the inverted comma, and then we'll say return data, return none, sorry, if there's no data. Okay, now we have to return the data, right? Now let's say data underscore values is equal to data dot iloc. We'll take all the data or all the rows, and then we'll take only first 5 columns, which is our open, close, high, low, right? Dot values dot round decimal 5. Now why we are taking decimals is because even though it's only 4 decimal places that we need, but in the recent time the algo traders, or let's say users, have started using 5 decimal places, right? Because it's more for the accuracy reasons. The retail market dealers started quoting most of the currency pairs in, let's say, 5 decimal places instead of 4. Earlier the traders were using the concept of pip, but which is more like a 4th decimal places, but nowadays it's called pipit, right? So for, let's say, for 4 decimal places we were calling decimal, we were called pip, but now for 5 decimal places we call it pip. I don't know if this is the right spelling, could be, or PEP. For an example, I gave you an example over here. So earlier it was something like, if it was 1.0964, but now we are taking 1.0964 5, right? And for this reason we'll be using the round, or the round as well, or round method, or the, let's say, okay. Now anyways, okay, so now return data values. I was just thinking to remove it from here, just to see the continuity of the code, but I don't know, it's okay. Okay, now let's move on to the next function. So we will say, let's call this function, right? So fetch data for specific asset and time frame. Now what we will do, this function, let's say my, I don't know what I did, but something happened. Anyways, my data is equal to import data, and then we'll pass 1 comma d1. Now what it is really important. So we are calling import data is this one. So what we are saying, the asset index is 1. So asset index 1 means this one, not this one. So the index starts from 0. So USDC is what we are calling, and then D1 is mostly this one, not mostly, but yeah, the day interval, 1 day data. Right, now let me add more, with the debugger help. So if my data is not none, so I will say print fetched data my data, right? If it is empty data, then we will say print no data fetched. It's just to make sure that the data is there, and if it is not, we will get to know, because sometimes the data might not be there for the time frame that we are, or for the time interval that we are mentioning. Okay, now the most important part, generate signals. Now to generate the signals, we will create, let's say, a random buy or sell signal for the time being, but in the future videos which will have the patterns, or let's say candlestick patterns, and then based on that we'll create the buy and sell signals, right? But for the time being, I will say let's just create some random buy or sell signals. So define generate signals, right? And then we will pass the data in this. Okay, so let's say data is equal to add column, CLUMNS. Did we miss to or create this function? Okay, yeah, so what we need to do with the add column, we have to add 2 columns to S buy and sell signal, right? So let me just leave it here, and then add create buy or sell signal column, right? So for that, let's define columns in which we will pass the data, and then times is more like the time frame that we are creating, and then how many columns that we need to add. Now for that, for score in range times, how many times or how many columns do we need to create? New column is equal to numpy dot zeros. So we'll just create the zeros, and then it should be len data comma 1. Let's close this, and then I'll say the data type should be float, right? And then the data should be equal to, which we need to return is np dot, will append it with the data new column, and access will be 1. Okay, now let's return data. It will come over here. Okay, good. This closer. Okay, now we have add columns. Now let's move on. So for I in range, again it will be the number of rows that we have. So it's like data, and now let's try. So see, it's always good to add the try catch now, especially in the financial code, because if there is an error, so you will get to know. So let's say if data 1 comma 3 is greater than, let me just data, so I is the row minus 2 second last column comma 3, right? If it is that, then we'll say data I plus 1 comma 4 is equal to 1. So basically this is the buy signal. Now is it correct? Yeah, okay, maybe it's because of this that I was feeling uncomfortable. Okay, if date I comma 3 is less than date, let's say I comma I minus 2. Did I write I comma? Yeah, my mistake. Okay, so minus 2, and then I minus 2 comma 3, right? Why did it go there? And then we'll say data. Why is it going there? Is it because of probably the other keyboard? Something is not right. Is it because of this? Okay, anyways, I will come on to that. Okay, data I plus 1 comma 5 is equal to minus 1, which is our sell signal, right? And then let's close it with except index error, and then pass. Now something is not right, because it went just of its own. So if I say return data, now let's try to align this code. So basically for I, this should come here. It's there now, except what is the problem then? Something somewhere is not right. I'm just looking. This is right. If date, why is this not bluish? Okay, but I did correct it earlier. Anyways, so yeah, so this is the code to generate the signal, right? And then let's create OHLC plot. So what is OHLC? OHLC is basically open, low and close. So this is what the OHLC is, right? So let's create OHLC candle, basically OHLC plot candles. Okay, so this is more of, let's say, the visualization purpose, right? And for that we will create plot. Basically there will be a chart first, or let's say, yeah, a chart, and then within that chart we will first bring in the data, and then after bringing in the data we will create, let's say, a buy and sell signal as a visualization. So we need to pass data and then the window. I will come on to what window is. Okay, so let's say the sample is equal to data minus window and then all columns. Now what is window is basically, let's say if I pass 500 over here, so it will bring all the data which is, minus window, so which is basically the data from the bottom to up. So if I say, let's say 500 now as window, so it will bring the data from the last 500 records will be taken, right? Okay, now let's do the logic. If I in range of length of the sample, now it will be like a plot. I don't know if you guys will like it, but it's more like a boring part. So what I will do, maybe I can just write the code. So this is the code, right? Just to me, okay, y minimum. So basically we are creating a vertical lines. Y minimum, x is equal to I, y minimum, and then y max, color black, line width. Okay, now let's also create the signal plots. So I'll say define plot signal chart, and then we will pass the data, position, and I will also buy whether it's a buy column and then sell column. We will also pass on the window as default as 500, right? And then the logic behind it. So now we will basically call the generate, this function, generate signal, right? Data is equal to generate signals and data. Sorry. Make sure that you have the columns, to create it. Now the sample will be sample is equal to data minus window all columns, and then let's copy, and then we can go through the code, right? So we are creating a figure with axis, and then the figure size is 12:6. Yeah, it's totally on you how to, yeah. So how big you want to see the graph or the plot. And then we are creating the OHLC plot candle. So basically the candles will be created with this OHLC plot, candles, and then we will create the buy signal or the sell signal based on this data. So which data? It's basically this sample data, right? So and then plt.show. Now let's do the ending part. Plot the signal with the fetched data. So I'll say if my data is not none, then it will call plot signal dot, and then I will pass my data. I will pass 3, which is our position, then we pass buy column, which is our column 4, sell column, which is our column 5, and then also window. Even though it's mentioned window 500, I just want to make sure that we are passing it is equal to 500. I think this is it. Let me just run this code now. Hope this works, because see, normally what I do, I run this with the notebook. For each function there will be a new cell. So that's how I used to do. So for each function I write this code in a cell, and then I try to run this and see if there is error or not. But yeah, just to show it to you guys, and then just to make sure that we are covering each line by line. So that's why I wrote it on the Python file instead of IPython notebook, right? So let me run this first. So let's say Python, cd, right? And then let's say Python create buy sell signals. So hopefully it runs. Let's see. So basically it first opened this window, right? That's what the noise that you must have heard. So there is a small error if rates is none. is none. My mistake. Let's run it again. Okay, again. Minus window index 500 is out of bounds for x0 with size 30. We have the data for sure, right? But something is index minus 500. Okay, so basically it just brought only 30 records, but I think we need to increase, because here we are saying that we need 500 records based on the window. So what we will do, I'll just change this one. Yeah, we need to change from 2024 to let's say 2020, and then let's save it. Let's run it again. So again, too many indices for the array. Array is one dimensional, but two are given. Where is it? Sample 345, which is line something. I think the error is, of course, it's showing on this place, but it's not here. I think it's on the generate signal. So basically it's more of dimensions. So range, let's correct the dimensions. Basically 2 comma is -1. This should fix this one. What we are doing, that the data, we will make sure that it's two-dimensional after the processing, but we'll modify the plotting functions to handle the data correctly. So basically generate signal was corrected, and let's go back and see the OHLC plot candles. This should work. Well, let's do this as else condition. Let's not specifically tell it what to do, but my mistake. This bit. Okay, though I don't know, too much of data probably. Let me just try to reduce the data. Maybe not 2020, 24. Let's try. Yeah, I think we have it. So this is the chart or the plot. Let's say that is being created, right? And yeah, we took, I think, Euro USD. Did we? Or let me just check. We took the data one, no, it was not Euro USD, but it was this one. Let's try it again. Okay, so we have the Euro USD data, and this is how it has been plotted. So I'm sure you must have seen what the changes that I made in the code. If not, then please do let me know. I will, right? So that's all from my end. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Please make sure to like, share and subscribe. Till then, take care, eat healthy and drink plenty of water. Bye.